Alright guys, welcome back to Dead End Aegis Gaiden. I had hoped to finish recording everything in one part yesterday, but apparently this is longer than I thought. So instead of having a super long video, I figured making shorter parts would make more sense. And my computer actually kind of crashed. It couldn't finish holding an entire recording yesterday, so I am finishing up today, and hopefully this part won't be too long. It seems like we are wrapping up, but if it is shorter than the previous about 45-minute videos, that is why. So let's get into it and see what happens. Okay, we'll just start recording here. I don't know why I can't seem to figure out where it is that the line that last recorded is, but I think it was in this conversation. So basically, they are sending them to go fight, while they send off missiles or something. I don't know. I'm not really following all of this war information. But they're gonna go out here, they're gonna fight, and then something important happens. Indeed, I didn't think our power would be effective against something that massive. Still, I couldn't help but think that we'd somehow figure out some way to deal with it all the same.
司令部の期待通りに事態が進むとすれば、月面の2都市は毒入りの餌。相手
Exactly, once all the citizens have been evacuated, we'll bring large numbers of reactor warheads into the cities. You three just need to keep the fight going until the very last moment, then make our retreat. Once you do, the enemy will go to the cities.
今までのデータからして、あの招かれざるお客様の機動力は小型飛行体ほどはなさそうですわね。
Exactly. If we fire the reactor warheads from close range, it shouldn't be able to avoid them. They're propelled by rockets, albeit very simple ones. From the previous battles, we know that the blasts of reactor warheads are able to damage the alien flyers. The world governments are gathering up all the reactor warheads they've hoarded and are sending them all to the moon right now. Footage of a constant stream of ships arriving at and departing from the moon's Armstrong spaceport, its central harbor, plays on the holographic display. They are bringing nuclear warheads on their trips to the moon and evacuating refugees on their way back. Still, I'm assuming they're preparing for what comes after this war, because what they're delivering is much less than what we know they have. At any rate, this is by far the biggest stockpile of firepower in one place ever since the dawn of human history. 反応弾運用部隊は無人ですの? A small number of inspection personnel will remain there until the last minute. It's a do-or-die mission, but we've had many volunteers. Morale is on the rise. That last battle was effective at getting everyone's spirits up. If nothing else, it proved that the enemy can be destroyed.
僕らの大活躍があったからね。でも秘密戦隊も捨てがたい。悩むな。
The media's been having a field day with your heroics. Your identities are still confidential, though. Earth knows about you, but the rest is still a secret.
有名なのに秘密戦隊か。両方とはすごいぞ。
Sorry, if I look kind of annoyed, I'm just really annoyed about this recording and having to keep replaying this game over and over. Raiden's eye approaches menacingly, as if looming over the two cities. The enemy hovers some 18 miles above the moon's surface. We've been performing a fighting retreat over the course of 4 whole hours, luring the enemy to the specific spot. The blue light spilling from its eye like tears shines down on New Beijing and New Washington. Standing our ground in the sliver of space between the enemy and the cities, we continue fighting the CC flyers. We've kept the CC from reaching the cities, preventing them from discovering that they've abandoned state for the volunteer units. The Set flits freely through the air, much like her gigantic sword that cuts down the enemy's.
距離が20キロになったら撤退ですわよ。
Any flyers that get past Lisette are either shot down by Khonshu and her 6 teddy bears lasers or slashed apart by my sphere. The UEF unit, consisting of the few ships they were able to cobble together, has already retreated. At this point, it's just us and the personnel hiding in the nearby
に
cities.
してもあの敵って白い水星帝国より強いな。何度か表面を剣で切り刻んだんだけどすぐ回復しちゃうんだよ。ずるいよ。
I think I'm just getting sick of playing this because it just seems so much of the fighting war discussion, and I'm ready to play something else.
無茶だよリゼット。勝手にそんなことやったんですの？
Whenever did she descend down to the surface of Raiden's
だって
eye and come
待って
back?
切り刻めるかと思ったんだもん。それで済むならこんな面倒な作戦とかやらないですわ。
A transmission rings in my ears. The launch units down in the cities are finally ready to fire the reactor warheads. This means we have to start falling back. Raiden's eye is too large to get away quickly. At this range, it won't have the time to retreat. We begin to withdraw from
私
the
たちも撤退
battlefield.
ですわ。待って、取り残された友軍がいるらしい。
Raiden's eye has much mass that it's influencing gravity around the moon. Some of the designated escape routes along the moon's surface must
助
have
けに行くぞ。
collapsed.
仕方ないですわね。時間がないですからすぐに済ませますわよ。
We hurry over to our allies' position. As we fly above the moon's surface, we see that some of the tubed tunnels connecting the city to the spaceport have been destroyed. Several people in spacesuits are falling out of the crashed vehicle. The moment they spot us, they wave and raise their hands in
僕
cheers.
たち有名人だ。はいはい、有名有名。よかったですわね。そういうのは終わってからですわ。秘密戦隊は辛いね。
We touch down and usher them back into their vehicle. Once they're all secured inside, the 3 of us deploy a force field. Force field, that's the colloquial term for the field that surrounds us when we transform. It includes our magical girl outfits, our weapons, and the barriers we produce. It's a little hard to explain, but we expand our force fields so they envelop the vehicle. Once we lift the vehicle up into the air, we begin carrying it with us to the spaceport. An overbearing, coercive pressure washes over me, making me look up. Raiden's eye glowers down at us, seeming so close that it seems like all it would take to touch it is to extend my hand. Blue light spills from its gaping eye-like tear, casting a pale azure glow over us all. I realize now that the blue surface looks as though it's dripping, almost like the eye is weeping. But the undulating substance isn't tears, it's tentacles, gigantic pale blue tendrils.
やば、
reach down toward
早く
us.
早く。これ以上無理ですわ。高度を下げるしかないですわ。
The swarm of tentacles grows even larger. It rapidly fills the skies as the tips come ever closer. We slowly lower our altitude in an attempt to escape the tentacles. It seems like our presence has been noticed at this point. It looks as though a bluish whirlwind is raging all around us. I finally come to a realization. Of the 3 of us, I'm contributing the least toward towing the vehicle. If Lisette or Khonshu were to leave, the vehicle would plummet to the ground. But it wouldn't if I did. I'm accomplishing the least here. It'd be better for me to make use of myself in a different
私が
way.
触手を引きつけます。2人は中港までこの人たちを運んで。かっこいいぞキルケ。でもそれは僕の役目だ。ダメですわ。キルケさん一人では。
I've released the grip of my force field.
あとは頼みます。
When I pull away, the vehicle lurches once as Khonshu and Lisette adjust their grip. A moment later, they recover and resume
僕が
flying
戻
away.
ってくるまで頑張れ。そうですわ。私たちはチームである以前に友達なんですのよ。
I manifest my weapon back into existence and launch an attack on one of the massive tentacles pursuing the vehicle. The moment my weapon hits home, there's a powerful shockwave that sends me flying back. Blue liquid gushes from the tentacle where I struck it. At the very least, I can damage it. The small discovery gives me courage. I slash 3 more times at the tentacles closing in on the vehicle. It's too thick for me to cut through it, but I'm clearly hurting it. The bluish blood pouring from its wounds freezes in the blink of an eye, forming an azure blizzard that covers the moon's surface. some part of me can't help but think that the sight is beautiful. Maybe the errant thought is what doomed me, or maybe I'm simply too weak. By the time I noticed a second presence nearing me, the other massive tentacle has already swooped in on me from my flank. There's no time to dodge it. It slams into me, sending me flying through the air. My thoughts fade to black. I'm fading into nothing. I'm falling into a cold darkness where I can't feel anything. No, I don't want this. No, not this. I don't want this. But I have no way of resisting. I'm fading away. Fading away, fading away. My arms, my legs, my stomach, my head, all of me, fading away. Ugh, it's all over. Something thrusts into my head. A cold hand, bent on wiping me out of existence. The chill flows into every groove and fold of my brain. I'm fading away. Lisette. She appears within the light. A person enveloped in sacred white light. A light shaped like a soul. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just always yawning. That's right, it's Lisette. The person I hold dearer than anyone. The one I never want to be torn away from. That's right, I'm Circe. My name flares up within my withered existence like a flame rushing through my body. The tubes attacking my body are severed to their roots. My limbs feel light all of a sudden. I feel something leave my body. Although I feel light, I can't muster enough strength to move. Immediately after, something tightly embraces me. Lisette flies off with me in her arms. A large mass of tentacles pursues us from all directions, trying to swat us back down to the surface. And somehow Lisette and I slip through a narrow, twisting path within the tangles of tentacles. It's as if time and space themselves defer to Lisette's feet. We escape the flurry of whip-like tentacles crawling over me. But just then, a thick trunk of tentacles thrust toward us from Lisette's blind spot. We can't get away. And on top of that, red lasers are closing in on us from ahead. Yet Lisette doesn't even try to avoid them. She continues flying straight ahead without a moment's hesitation. The lasers hit the thick tentacle just as its tip winds back to strike at us. Splashes of blue bodily fluids billow from its flesh as its swing misses us by a hair's breadth. Who is she? Why is she so friendly with Lisette? I don't like it. Lisette's mine. Can't this woman just die? Huh? It sounds like she knows me too. Misty. I remember Lisette calling someone that way. Guess I remember. This is Kanshu. Her Regret runs through me. I can't believe I harbored such dark feelings about Kanshu. I even wished her death. With me still in her arms, Lisette blitzes past Kanshu and flies off. Looking behind her, I see Kanshu firing more red lasers to fend off the pursuing tentacles, while she falls back with us. That's when it happens. A massive boulder hurtles past us, launched from the moon's surface. Something else impacts Rudan's eye directly from behind. Mass driver catapults are used to propel resources from the moon into Earth's orbit. The titanium, aluminum, and iron collected from the moon's automated mines is loaded into unmanned pallets, which are then launched from each mine railgun. Accelerated by a force in excess of 10 Gs, the cargo breaks free of the moon's gravity and flies through space at 1.24 miles per second until it is caught in a net in Earth's orbit. Each of the 15 mines dotting the moon's surface delivers hundreds of tons of resources to the orbital bases and factories around the Earth. These resources are crucial for development within space. By changing their firing angles ever so slightly, they can instead fire payloads into Radon's eye. These crude but massive projectiles are causing more damage than any laser or
あんないいものがあるんならさ、ちっぽけなのじゃなくてもっとでかいのぶつけてやればいいのに。そんなもの作ったら経済的に引き合いませんもの。それに作りたくても作れませんわ。地球に
Radon's eye stops pursuing us, instead turning its blue gaze toward the moon's surface. Just as the enemy looks down, red flashes and smoke begin to rise up from the two cities, which are crumbling under the gravitational pull of the gigantic enemy's mass. The reactor warheads, gathered by mankind's powers, are launched from close range directly into the enemy's eye. At this distance, there's no way it can possibly avoid them. Sound doesn't travel through vacuum, but I'm sure that the blast would otherwise be deafening. Flashing specks of the reaction warhead's explosions sprout from the surface of the downturned eye. Radon's eye, massive form, shakes ever so slightly. It crashes into the moon's surface, sinking into the lunar... The operation was a complete success. Mankind has won. I think so anyway. For some reason, I can't feel any excitement. This is what I was actually getting interested in about this story. Because, what happened to Circe, right? So she didn't remember Khonshu, now she can't feel excitement. Correct. The operation was successful, but Radon's eye is still active. The monitor is filled with camera feeds of the enemy's gigantic form. At first, it looks like it's completely still, but then... Yes, it's hardly visible from this distance, but it seems to be trying to push itself away from the moon. A magnified view of the enemy makes the situation clearer. With the two cities crushed beneath its weight, Radon's eye is now attempting to lift itself out of the massive crater its fall created.
あれだけの火力でも損害が与えられないなんて。やるな。さすがは僕の前に現れた最大の敵。
It certainly hasn't escaped unscathed. We've temporarily forced it into an inert state, but the fact it can still move after all that means it might as well be invincible. The UEF has no more cards to play. If Radon's eye were to descend upon the Earth, it would be a catastrophe. It would bring about a massacre, dwarfing what it did to Mars and the Moon. But oddly enough, that realization doesn't stir any emotion in me. To me, that knowledge simply seems like a cold, hard fact. Yes, it would be a terrible thing for the species of mankind to suffer, but my mind remains indifferent, as if asking, so what? Some part of me is terrified of that indifference. By now, Radon's eye floats completely above the moon's surface, begins moving once more. What's the enemy's course? To answer Commander Kennison's question, a projection of Radon's eye predicted course is brought up in the center of HQ. Radon's eye is moving toward
マスドライバーを潰すつもりですわ。15カ所すべてを潰すまで時間の猶予がありますわね。
These little ones are desperate to live on. Wait, what is this? Why do I feel like this whole affair is nothing to do with it?
だからさ、あの程度でも嫌がってるんだからさ。あんなに小さな石の塊じゃなくて、もっとでかいのぶつけりゃよかったんだよ。
When I look at Lisette, though, I simply think that she's dashing and silly and haphazard. She's the same Lisette I've always loved.
ですから無理だと言っているんですわ。無理じゃない。やればできる。諦めたらそこで試合終了だよ。プッシュプッシュ。考え。
Oh, I really thought she was done. Really, no matter what, Lisette never changes. That's what's so good about her.
あれにぶつけて効果があるような手頃な小天体でもあれば別ですけど。そんな危険なものは航路局が全部除去してしまってますわ。ある。
Lisette points at the projection up in the center.
こいつをやつにぶつけてやるんだ。アホですわ。アホじゃない。僕はヒーローだ。
Lisette's so cool. We don't have any orders from the higher ups, and I have independent authority over your unit. Deploy. I'll assume all responsibility for anything you do. If you can't do it, no one can. was it again? I was sick in bed with a cold when Lisette came over to play. She said we would go outside and have some fun. When my mother told her I was sick,
風邪じゃ
Lisette
しょうが
just
ない
said,
ね。じゃあ頑張って治して。ファイト。
and then she left, leaving me behind. Tired and weak, I watched her out from my window as she left. Lisette looked so much more free and unfettered than she did when she was with me. It was like there were wings at her back that could carry her wherever she wanted. She went off to play with someone else, someone who wasn't me. But whoever that was, they probably had the strength needed to keep up with Lisette. Maybe she wouldn't invite me next time. That thought made me feel miserable. Lisette, I'm scared. You're too free, and you might leave me behind.
んじゃちょっくら行って地球を救ってくる。まったくこんなの作戦でも何でもありませんわ。僕を信じろ。
I see them off in the docking port, dressed not in my magical girl outfit, but a mere spacesuit. After being rescued from Redon's eye, I found I can't transform
気
anymore.
をつけてね。大丈夫。キルケの分までやっちゃうから。キルケ、あなたの彼女の背中は私がちゃんと守りますわ。
Khonshu, she's more talented than I am. Lisette's leaving with her. No, I don't want that. No. She's being considerate of me. She knows how I feel. But even so, no, I don't want
また後
this.
で。
Lisette beams out. And with that shout, she throws her body into outer space. Khonshu follows after her. Their figures soon disappear from sight. Yet, though I can't see them, I can still
どう
hear
やる
their
んですの
voices.
あんなの。そりゃ押してぶつけるんだってば。リゼット、あなたって本当にバカですわね。乗りかかった船ですからやりますけど。ということでちょっと時間稼ぎしてて。
The two of them banter like a couple. No, I already know. They've always been like that. It's just that before, I used to be there too. And now I'm not. It's just Lisette and Khonshu. That fact makes me feel so hurt and jealous. Everyone knows what happens next. First, Khonshu shot down a sea patrol of flyers, drawing the attention of Redon's eye. With that distraction, Lisette flew to the opposite side of the moon, putting it between her and Redon's eye. She then became gigantic and moved the moon. It sounds so simple when I put it into words, but the truth is that even I'm not sure what happened there. It's classified military intel. I can't find any recorded footage of it. But while it was happening, I
変
got to hear everything.
身光の巨人シュワッチ。
Later, Lisette told me her
大きい
version
も
of
の
the
を動
story.
かすなら自分も大きいものになっちゃえってだけ。
That's all she had to say about it. With the written records, I'm allowed access to claim that Lisette's body burst forth with a gigantic aura of light, manifesting a larger version of herself that she used to move the moon. I can't imagine that Lisette truly put any more thought into the act. Redon's eye tried to escape, but Lisette simply pressed on, driving the moon toward the enemy even more quickly. The impact of the moon against the enemy smashed its bits, completely destroying it. Even after that, Lisette continued to accelerate. By that point, the moon had gained enough velocity to escape Earth's orbit. In other words, the Earth would ultimately lose the moon as its satellite. But that was something we'd only find out much later.
あのバカ、本当にやりましたわ。バカっていう人の方がバカなんだい。ってやった。屋上から落としたトマトみたいに潰れましたわ。よっしゃー。
Is that where the game ends off? That's exactly where it crashed before. So now I'm wondering if that's where the game ends. I'm not even kidding. If that's where the game ends, then I'm very confused. So I think that was the end of Gaiden. I'm a little confused why it just cuts off like that, because if they were going to just cut it off, they could have cut it off at a better part than that. I thought that maybe it was going to cut off before when they returned, but anyways, I don't know really what to say for my thoughts on it. I don't really like Lisette very much. Like, I don't dislike her, but she's a little too much for me. I might be her friend, but she would be a little annoying. So I'm a little like about the main girl being so obsessed with her as she seems to be, and I'm not much of a war person, so all of the battle discussion was kind of boring for me personally, but it wasn't bad writing or anything. I just wish that it was a little more character driven, which, I mean, is character driven, but I still found myself just kind of wanting the game to be over. But I am intrigued about these CC aliens, what their objective is, and what it is that has happened to Circe now, and if something has potentially happened to their bodies, by becoming the magical girls. So I could see some potential for the story to become very interesting. But will I rush out and buy the main game? No. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will be playing another visual novel next.